just before President Bazoum was sworn into office.
Sure.
The same man.
Yeah, quite.
He was also a close confidant and collaborator of the predecessor, President Yusufu.
Yes.
And this is why actually it's President Yusufu who more or less convinced President Bazoum to return him.
Right. Exactly. This is true.
So you show this goodwill, you show this dedication, then all of a sudden, somewhere down the line, you find fault with the same. And
ironically, this current coup leader had twice been accused of plotting a coup.
Disloyalty.
Sure.
Honestly, as my colleagues and brothers say, in the current case of Niger, there is no justification. More so when actually I was just going through some notes, both President Bazoum's predecessor and myself had increased the budget of the nation for the military to 40% of the national budget, which is something that is unheard of. So this shows you that they are focused on not only on security, but on the welfare of the defense and security forces. So honestly, in my humble opinion, we can't go along with his reasoning. Well, although we will hear a lot of stories they have been trying to spin, when we go down the line, we will come up with that.
We will. Well, we will hear a lot of stories, and we will also hear now from Dr. Toure. And this was once the announcement had been made that there had been a coup. There was a very, very forceful statement by ECOWAS, and we will see and we will hear that statement. Colleagues, please.
Consider the illegal detention of President Bazoum as a hostage situation and hold the authors of the attempted coup d'etat solely and fully responsible for the safety and security of His Excellency President Mohamed Bazoum, as well as members of his family and government. In the event the authorities' demands are not met within 1 week, take all measures necessary to restore constitutional order in the Republic of Niger. Such measures may include the use of force. To this effect, the chiefs of defense staff of ECOWAS are to meet immediately. Freeze all service transactions, including energy transactions. Freeze assets of the Republic of Niger in ECOWAS central banks. Freeze of assets of the Niger state and the state enterprises and parastatals in commercial banks. Suspension of Niger from all financial assistance and transactions with all financial institutions, particularly EBID and BOAD. Calls WAMU and all other regional bodies to implement this decision.
There we heard Dr. Toure there. Mr. Mbalo, if I could come to you, because you've kind of hinted at it already, that we are signatories to exactly that. And the difference this time is we're used to hearing ECOWAS saying we're going to sanction people who stage successful coup d'etats. But this time, they didn't say we will use force. They said it may include. So that gives us a kind of wiggle room, because you didn't say will. But the big question that everybody asks, even probably what this program is all about, what's so different about this one that we have said that this time we may use force? Why?
Well, I mean, Francis, the reason why they use that word, they might use force, is just, let me come back to my previous statement, that Niger case is really a unique case. Totally different from the other cases, the other 3 countries that have state coup d'etat. And it has shocked everybody internationally. The whole, they have shocked the globe that there is no reason for these people, to stage this coup. Niger at this moment, what everybody was expecting is for them to give President Bazoum a support, so that he would improve the economy. We all know what is happening around the world. We all know there is no country that is not affected economically today. Even the Western world, United States, they are all, we know what is happening. We know what is happening in UK. We know what is happening in Swiss, Germany, France. We know. So for a third world country like Niger, where everybody knows it's a poor country, what we expected, what is expected from the military is to make sure that they promote the democratic process. They maintain the rule of law, but not to state coup d'etat.
So if I can come to you, Mr. Chongan, before I come to Esther, we just heard there, because you've been quite strong in your condemnation of the coup leader, and you've talked about him being opportunistic. But I have to ask you the question also. Did you foresee that ECOWAS would take such a strong stance as they've done on this particular occasion?
Yes. I mean, I've already explained the unique circumstances of Niger, which is different from Guinea, where Alpha Conde fiddled with the constitution and the people were angry. Mali is the same. They have a history of coup d'etat, and Burkina Faso is the same. But in this place, in Africa, we are all saying that we want our presidents to have two-term limit. The president who was there had respected the two-term limit. This guy has been has won about just 2 years ago. And these people, the army, they have insurgencies who are attacking their country. Instead of they defend the territorial integrity of their country, they overthrow the democracy. So there is no excuse for this killing. And I fully support the ECOWAS statement, because there is a lot of people who are doing some spin. What ECOWAS said, they said, apart from the economic sanctions, the diplomatic sanctions, they said they may, it may include military intervention.
Yes.
So may is a very crucial thing.
Indeed.
So in a system of diplomacy and war, I mean, the ECOWAS need to put all the options on the table.
Yeah, of course.
So it's not necessarily that they might just go to war tomorrow.
Sure.
Niger is a very vulnerable country. It's a landlocked country.
Yeah, sure.
They need the ports of Nigeria and Benin Republic. If they want to use the alternative of Algeria, that will be over 2,000
It's much longer
kilometers.
distance. Yeah, quite.
And then you have the desert,
Yeah.
etc. So, most probably the diplomatic and the economic sanctions will bite.
Sure.
Already, food prices in Niger is getting increased. And also, I wanted to articulate something.
Yes.
Many people are just jumping and saying, yeah, this is gung-ho about war. It's not that. There is an international order. Even ECOWAS, before they can intervene in Niger, this has to get, they have to get the permission of the Security Council.
Sure.
Under Chapter 7.
Sure.
So there are a lot of steps before you get to the military solution. So we need to talk about the diplomatic and economic sanctions.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for that. Well, it's almost as if you read our thoughts there, because you mentioned the ECOWAS Security Council, and of course they met, and I think we have the video of that meeting, and of course that...
No, I'm talking about the UN Security
Council. The UN Security Council. Well,
I don't think they don't need it.
Right. Okay. Okay. I thought you meant the security chiefs of ECOWAS who met.
Yeah, it's normal for the security chiefs to meet.
Right. Yes.
Because obviously you need to prepare for war. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to war.
No. Of course, because they did say that once they've met, that will then decide what course of action they're going to take. Although we've already seen that Nigerian Senate. Has voted against it, but
no. There's a correction there, Ade. Tinubu did not go to the Nigerian Senate to ask permission for military intervention. He went to the Nigerian Senate to support the ECOWAS statement.
Right. Okay.
If you look at the video, even the president of the Nigerian Senate. Said that it was erroneous to say that the president acted for military intervention.
Right. Okay.
So if you understand the Nigerian constitution, the president has the right to take military action and then go to the Senate.
Well,
so we are not there yet.
Yes, quite.
So it's important for this clarification.
I'm glad.
A lot of people saying
yes.
That the Senate has refused. The president never asked for military intervention.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. Now, you mentioned something there, which you talked about Niger being volatile, and when we were discussing this in the office, I said to colleagues, are we expecting too much in terms of expecting countries that have what might be called a fragile democracy to behave as if they have a well-established democracy? We can go back to 1974 in Niger when Kunche overthrew Amani Diori. They said Diori had been in power too long. He'd been in power for 14 years. Kunche came, he was in power for 13 years. Yeah. Having said the man you accused of being in power. And then, of course, Ibrahim Manasara, came, so they've had coup d'etats, 1990, 1999, 2010, and so on. And, of course, we talked about Isufu. He did 2 terms and he left. Yes. But it seems as if what has happened now is showing us that perhaps democracy is not as embedded or as entrenched as perhaps we thought it might be. Esa, if I could come to you for that.
Thank you very much, Ade. I'll step from what advisor said, and, the colonel. Like Mao Zedong said, I mean, diplomacy is another extension of war.
Well, yeah, quite.
So the difference is that these people put on camouflage and the other ones put on suits, but they are all within a structure of discipline.
True.
So where we hear, he reminded me of Article 7. I mean, in fact, that's why I say, before I go further, I want us to all join in one voice to make sure that people understand that savagery, Africans wouldn't accept it, and a coup d'etat is not the best option for any system of government. No, it is not. In fact, I call these 3 the assassins of democracy. I call coup d'etat an assassin of democracy. I call rebellion an assassin of democracy. And I call terrorism an assassin of democracy, or any form of uprising that wants to render a territory ungovernable is an assassin of democracy, before I go further.
Yeah, sure.
Because the point is, when I was listening to our brother, the president there, our brother Gambian, Dr. Toure.
Oh, yes.
I mean, hostage situation. If you hear diplomats speaking like that, know that they are concerned.
Yeah,
sure. Because, and I don't know what other word one would use other than what he said. Because right now, none of us knows where President Bazoum is. If he's alive, if he's not alive. We saw a video being circulated.
And we saw his article in the New York Times.
And then it circulated that the Minister of Finance was crying, and they were saying that we give you 48 hours to produce the money. I mean, that's, I think the coup leaders in any theatricality of war and power.
I have to just, that video is fake, by the way.
Yes.
It's nothing to do with this.
I'm not saying it's true. I'm just saying we are seeing all these things around.
Sure.
So you will find out that all those things are mistakes.
Yeah, sure.
In fact, I told somebody, it's not like I'm trying to side with my other country, what I would call United States. But I'm going to be very much clear on that one. That if it is about the United States, I support what they're doing because it's a counterterrorism process,
Right.
which I have some knowledge about. But for France, there are other people expanding the argument about France. And these people are spinning it. But there is a big mistake they made diplomatically. You know, you just don't come, you coup d'etat, and then all of a sudden jump and say, I'm severing diplomatic relations with all these people. I am blocking my airspace. You cannot block your airspace to a country like the United States if they are ready to act. No. So you see, the emotionally charged nature of the coupists, even if there were people, let's say even if, as time goes, it erodes because people will see the amateur nature of their approach of things. But coming back to, if my time allocated would allow me, coming back to what my brother said, I mean, you know, in countries, when we are signatories to pacts, to agreements, we don't play with that. That's why some countries signed the ICC, the International Criminal Court. Some people did not. So, but Gambia has appended its signature, and it has a history. As a salesperson of my country, what I believe is, if we can create room for diplomacy, Gambia can be can spearhead it, because we have a story. We went through an impasse here, isn't it?
Indeed.
Nobody can. Gambia's former president is the one who formulated Ecowas, isn't it?
Yeah, quite.
So, and Gambia participated in, I mean, putting the fire off between Iran and Iraq. We have people around here. So I would promote the idea of trying to have a consortium of conflict resolution. Let us not see ourselves as we are small. And I think, before I hand over, you go to my colleagues, I think here, I would say one of the slippery spots for leadership is where our brother has found himself, and all of us, we should support him to find a way of leading us into where we will raise the flag, show that we have the moral force, and show also that we have the backbone where the people on the ground refuse diplomacy. Gambia is not going to stand behind. We will join. So, you see, one of the most difficult parts of leadership is where you decide two things. Sign for somebody to be executed, and then declaration of war or send your troops abroad. But this is a very dicey situation, and I feel it for the head of state. I'm not spinning for him, but I'm being very honest. Because, okay, Ghana is here now. Okay? Nigeria is here. Senegal is here. And when we needed them to come, had they not come, what would we have been today? So now when it is time, like the Wolof would say, Delo Jukal, when it is time that their own sons and daughters are about to die, we say, okay, you can die for us, but we can die for you. This is where I believe people have to use their brains to help him shape the way through and clear the path, become the leader.
Sure. Thank you for that. Now, if I could come to you, Ambassador Diouf. Gentlemen, when we were off air, we were discussing the fact that there have been all these videos that we've seen of crowds seemingly jubilating and offering their support for the coupists. Has the ECOWAS declaration that it may use force, has that somehow, because you have this funny situation when you're in a country that even if you disagree with your government, if somebody else says I might attack your country, you get prepared to defend your country. Are we seeing that, or is it just that these people have guns and so people will come out and dance for them?
No, I think you've hit the nail right on the head. We should distinguish between two groups of so-called demonstrators in support of the coup. Yes, there are some people genuinely who are in the camp of the military. You have that everywhere in Africa. But we also have a group of people who have been irked by this threat of foreign intervention. Even small Gambia, we are like that. You have a good number of these people, you see them out there, is because they don't want any foreign intervention. But if we were to sieve between these two groups, we will see that you have less so-called supporters of the coup d'etat and the proponents of the coup d'etat. But let me just touch on something that my brother Chongan mentioned. This is with regard to the Senate of Nigeria.
Right.
President Tinubu has not yet approached the Senate on that.
Yeah, sure.
The thing is, if you had the map of Niger and Nigeria, you would see that at least 7-8 states in Niger have borders with Nigeria.
That's true. I told somebody that today. I said, look at the map.
In those states, at least 40% of the population are either from Niger or have origins from Niger. So that's a factor that President Tinubu, of course, will have to take into consideration. And this is also a factor that is moving the position of the senators and some of the governors there. But I think the war aspect is there. It's like something you hold just in case.
Just in case.
But even from that moment when President Tinubu made a statement, he has been sending emissaries quietly to negotiate.
Yes.
Ecowas also has been using its channels. And I think if we know Niger, it is a society that is strongly based on traditional values and religion.
Because General Abdul Salami Abubakar went
one of the finest leaders we have in West Africa.
He went on behalf of President
I
Tinubu.
think if we continue to tap both external mediators and using traditional and religious leaders in Niger, it may take time, but we will see this thing fizzle out, and we won't need to send soldiers there.
Mr. Mbalo, I know you're itching to come in.
Yes.
So please, yes.
Yes, I mean, coming to the point that, I mean, we have seen some people, some members of the civilian community coming out, showing, some form of support to the military.
In the tens of thousands.
We
have to be honest. I've got about 15 videos from every big town.
It's not only in Niamey.
No, every town and city. Every town and city.
Yes, Mr. Ade. I mean, there are so many factors that contributed to that. I will tell you. Number one, today, I have mentioned, I just touched on that point, on the economic aspect of the world today.
Sure.
We all know every country is feeling the pinch of this bad economic situation. Today, wherever a government, even in the United States, wherever a government is toppled, if they were to topple, God forbid, that would not happen. Because that's the that's the superpower. That's the biggest leading democracy in the world. But I'm just saying.
Well, Trump tried it.
Yes,
exactly. But yes. I am telling you today, the way people are suffering economically throughout the world because of the COVID-19, pandemic of the COVID-19, coupled with the Ukraine-Russia war, that has made all the world to suffer. If there is any problem in any country, expect to see some people come out, not because of they want what is happening, but because they feel they are suffering, might be something better is coming.
Exactly.
They will come out. They'll just come out and clap, thinking that something better will fall. That is one factor. The second, the other factor is due to fear. When military take over, we know what happened. We have experience. We have experience in this country. So we don't need to go and learn it from any university or from anywhere. When military, that's the strategy that they have. When they take over, they will make sure that they have pawn. They have other pawns within the sofa that they will ask them go and get the people. Opinion leaders, get them out because the outside world is coming to get us out. Tell us that, come out in the street, go to the stadium, tell them that you want us. you are suffering, you don't want the president.
Sure.
We know that. I mean, that is an open secret for military takeovers.
Well, just to pick up on what you've just said, I downloaded about 30 videos today. I think my colleagues were laughing at me because in Niger, the Bar Council came out in support. They did a video. The Medical Council came out in support. The traditional chiefs came out in support. The imams came out in support.
Of course.
The Christian Council came out in support. The spouses of army officers came out in support. But if I could go to you, Mr. Chongan, and I think one of the burning questions that probably is something that we should probably deal with fairly quickly. If ECOWAS makes this sort of ultimatum and says, they give them a week, if nothing happens after a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or a month, what does that do for ECOWAS and in terms of its credibility? Does it harm it? Does it damage it? Would it have been better had they not made this, given this week deadline, which expired yesterday, by the way? Would it have been better had they not said that?
No. I think you don't want to give Kupis more time for them to consolidate. So I think what they did was in order, and they have their meeting next Thursday, isn't it?
That's right. Yes.
And then they will tell us the way forward.
But I'm playing devil's advocate. Supposing that comes and it passes, and there is still no use of force, what then?
Yeah, but also supposing, remember, the more the sanctions are longer. Niger is a landlocked country. If we need fuel, if we need food supplies and food supplies, if the port in Nigeria and Benin are blocked,
yes,
I know people will say that Mali was sanctioned.
Yes,
but Mali had an opening through Guinea.
Well, just very quickly, yes. Just very quickly before you go on, I used to hear Uganda described as landlocked, and then President Museveni changed it. He said we are linked to 9 countries. Perhaps we should say we are land-linked rather than landlocked. And I think that's probably what Niger is probably saying now. We're not landlocked, we're land-linked. We don't have a seaport, but we are linked to other countries by road and other routes. But sorry to interrupt there, but I just thought that's a distinction worth making.
Let's look at the geography of Niger and Uganda. You are land-linked, that's fine. But so long as those people who have the ports are cooperating with you.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, so in the issue of Niger, the only other port they'll have is Algeria. Obviously, Libya is in a civil war.
Quite. And that's thousands of miles away.
And then from Algeria to Niamey is more than 2,000.
Yeah, quite. Yeah.
But the thing is, I mean, I think ECOWAS need to take a firm position. I mean, not everything will be open.
Sure, of course.
They will have their allies, etc. But as you said, the credibility of ECOWAS, I think also we need to look at that. We need to take a step and look at that.
Sure. And one of the reasons...
I think it's important.
Carry on, sorry.
Because one of the problems that ECOWAS have, some of our civilian leaders are also not proper. So you have military coups, but you also have civilian constitutional coups.
Yeah, sure.
So this is a problem for ECOWAS.
Sure.
Because some states, they are not acting democratically, even if they have civilian leaders.
Well, this is true. I mean, before we, whilst the thought is in my head, and we will come back specifically to Niger and to ECOWAS behaving like this, but does this signify a wider problem for ECOWAS? For example, the ECOWAS court. I could, just off the top of my head, give 2 examples where the court made a ruling that was completely ignored. One was in Sierra Leone, where Anis Bai Koroma sacked his vice president. And rightly so, Sam Sumana took him to the court. And the court said, well, you can't sack him because he wasn't selected, he was elected. Because in Sierra Leone, unlike in the Gambia and in other countries, you are on the ticket as a running mate. And so you're elected together. Sam Sumana won that case, and the court said Anis Bai Koroma should reappoint him. He ignored it. The other was the case of Alex Saab, the businessman who was captured in Cabo Verde, and he was wanted by the Americans. Cabo Verde arrested him before America had even put out a warrant for the guy. And so his people took the case to the ECOWAS court. They won, and yet they still extradited him to the United States in defiance of the court. Is that sort of disrespect of our institutions something that needs to be addressed? And is it part of the thing I'm mentioning? Esa, if I could come to you, the kind of credibility deficit that ECOWAS possibly has, that we don't... okay, let's just go back very quickly to the coup d'etat in Mali and Guinea and Burkina. When they said we will sanction them, Senegal said no, we won't block the borders because people will starve. And yet this was an ECOWAS decision. So where do we stand if ECOWAS makes this decision and suddenly some people start backing away from it and say, well, no, because they're our brothers, we can't do this or we can't do that. Is this likely to happen in this particular case?
I would be surprised.
Ade, can I come before you go to...
Yes, Mr.
You've got
Changa?
to also remember that Nigeria and Niger, they have like 1,000-kilometer border.
Yes, we discussed that before and during this show. Yes, of course, yes.
And these guys are calling for the one group to come to Niger.
Yeah.
So there are some other complications happening here, because obviously I don't think Nigeria would want the mercenaries to be next to their border.
As we can see from the map of Africa, which is on our screen, for anybody who doesn't know, there you have Niger, Niger, you know, and look at how long that border is with Nigeria. And so, you know, and this is the discussion that we've been having, I guess, even before we came on air, about why Nigeria will take a particular interest in this particular one more than they would in another coup somewhere else in West Africa. But Esa, if I could come back to you. So, Mr. Chongan, thank you for that. Much appreciated.
Thank you very much, Adi. I like your term, though, credibility deficiency. I mean, I like that. Well, you know, this is why I keep on saying when I appear on television or when I'm talking to people that this particular case of Niger, unfortunately, is a pole in the geostrategic arena, whether one likes it or not. The interested parties who wants to participate in this, there are many. And lurking behind. That's why
the world's biggest
exactly
source of uranium
because exactly. So this is why I said earlier. I would side with the U.S. if it's about war against terrorism, because the more we have, because the moment these terrorists spread, that's even worse than a coup. That's why interventions are also encouraged. So now. Earlier on, when I heard Cornell was talking about, by the way, I called him Cornell for a reason.
Because of it,
so,
of course.
Sanctions, for the sanctions that are mentioned by Dr. Ture, I agree with it, because sanctions are effective. You see, I will respond to the president of Uganda here, because he said he's a land-linked.
Yes.
Yeah, he's land-linked to land, not land-linked to sea. That's what people mean by landlocked.
Of course.
So he needs to understand, because if you are land-linked to land, you will not get cargo liners. And
I think Mr. Chongan made the point that
those
countries that he's linked to are friendly with him, that they can use, he can use their ports.
Correct. That's why
I'm
continuing where he stopped, because what he was trying to project is exactly what I'm trying to expand on. That warning the Ugandan leader that if you say you are land-linked, I heard what Cornell was saying. I mean, the thing is, when it is about that, these sanctions, you see, when you go back to security, intelligence gathering and all this stuff, you know, we are all familiar with it. Because when you read books, you go to university, you participate in state matters, him here, he's been an ambassador, he's been a colonel. We know that public opinion matters, you know, swaying the crowd. I mean, literature students would go back to Shakespeare, Julius Caesar. They may have their Mark Antony,
yeah, quite.
they may have their Cassius, but they sway in the crowd is what is happening
friends,
now.
Romans, countrymen,
Exactly.
lend me your ears.
So
yes.
now, if that is the case, let them also be careful. You see, when the pipe is turned off, you can only go, but you see, the mood of society, the pulse of society, is not easy to gauge, because the more the sanctions go, that's why US or other countries use sanctions. Because you know what will happen? What Advisor Mbalo was saying about these crowds, the way they come out, we know what they do. But the crowd also is not reliable. I was discussing with one expert, I can call him that, he said, the concern of the Nigerian coup plotters now is that the civilians are the ones protecting them. You know, that's the latest on the ground. So they are very much concerned, because when the civilians are protecting you, you are kind of dependable to them. Now, what about if those people supporting you after 1 month, because the last time I got human intelligence, right there in Niamey, somebody said that the bag of rice is 14,000 sefa. It might have been less.
That's right. Yes.
Nigeria, I got that yesterday directly from Nigeria, that the bag of rice is 41,500 naira, which will be changed to $54.26. That's a lot of money for a West African country, the standard of living. So I'm coming back to war, the theatricalities of war. That's why I want to spend a little bit of time, Ade, if you would allow me.
Please, yes.
You see, when I hear diplomats say, I like it when Colonel Chongan said may. I even made reference to it in one of our TV programs that when diplomats say may, here he is.
By the way, the chap we see on screen is the deputy.
Exactly.
He's not the coup leader.
When they say may,
the
deputy,
that's another thing. Okay, but my only concern is where we should advise our heads of state in making decisions on it. Because every citizen in any West African country, you appear on media conferences, your role today is to help your head of state take the right decision to end these things. Let us only be careful of two lanes here. The long-term war and the short-term war. If ECOWAS is to go in, let them coordinate. They can't do it alone. They cannot do it alone. They have to coordinate with the US. People will tell you, oh, the US will support, France will support. But supporting war is not only verbal. It's logical, it's technical, it's strategic. So let's pray to Allah that the war is not going to be long term, because the attrition level will be dangerous for us. So short term for me is better if we are only for military.
If I can pick up something, I'll come to you for second, but if I can come to you. Essa has just mentioned something. He talked about the US. Are we not also saying that this is an opportunity for ECOWAS to show that it can do it without outside help, without the help of the US? And is it a time that ECOWAS stood up on its own feet and did something of this nature, of this magnitude, without having to rely on outside? Because that could actually cause its own resentment.
That is exactly my contention. ECOWAS has the capacity, has the know-how, the technical stuff. Even within the Secretariat, if they mandate Dr. Toure to use his resources, look, we've done it during the crisis in Guinea-Bissau. Late Dr. Kofi Annan used to call it direct, boy, your country is in a mess, can you? And we did it. Sadauda, as you mentioned earlier, the Kuwait War, Islamic Conference gave him the mandate, and this is where our brother and friend, Ambassador Babakar Blaise Diagne, who were just young assistant secretaries, that's how he was groomed.
Well, you know, this is the internet. Apparently, tanks from Nigeria are heading towards. I saw one about fighter jets landing in Senegal and all that. But the interesting thing is, just 2 nights ago, the general removed all the close guys who helped him with the coup. He has replaced all of them with his former colleagues of special forces. What does that tell you?
He's not comfortable with the situation. But we do not pray that we get to that point. Even the sanctions, right now, it's biting hard because Benin was the first to close its border.
That's right.
The very moment the declaration was made, Benin closed. There are hundreds of trucks stranded there.
Sure. And then you had Nigeria with the
electricity. Now, foodstuff and all these are getting rotten. Economy is nosediving. It's not good. In the long run, of course, this will make people get frustrated. They need to eat. They need to drink. Yesterday, there was a short reportage on France television. So this poor lady timing the power to charge her mobiles and all that. You go to the bank, there is a limited amount of money you are allowed to withdraw. So these things in the long run will not help.
They will not help.
So let us quickly and honestly pursue Jojo as
Jojo instead of war.
Instead of war, as Prince
Sambalo, I know you were itching to come in at one point. Yes.
Yes, I mean,
Sir Chongan will come to you. We haven't forgotten you.
Just to support, Ambassador C, my brother, and also Ambassador Williams on these sanctions. We all know that the 1 week ultimatum to restore Mohammed has expired.
Expired yesterday.
But that does not mean that the ECOWAS, you see, some people are misjudging the ECOWAS statement. Some are saying they thought that, this 1 week ultimatum that was given to the military means that after 1 week they are going to attack them. No. That was what they said was after the 1 week there is the possibility of using force may come.
Which is why they said may.
That's why they say may. But in the street or in the social media you will hear that. That has nothing. That will not affect the credibility of the ECOWAS. I heard you asking that question whether now, after the expiration of this thing, whether if they have not done anything, whether that would affect the credibility of the ECOWAS.
I meant in the longer, because I went on to say if after 1 week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or a month, they have still not taken force, people will say, well, why did you say give him a week or we may? Rather than if they hadn't said anything and just said, we may use force without giving any sort of timeline. But I think Mr. Chongan said, don't give them any latitude.
But I mean, I think diplomacy, diplomacy is very important here, using diplomacy. Of course. I mean, we have to bear in mind that there are civilians in that country.
Indeed.
Using force is the last resort.
Has to be.
They should not force into using force. They should give them an opportunity, give them a window to think that, listen, what we are doing is not going to last. With these sanctions, the people who are protecting us, these civilians, if they suffer, they are the people who will run away and get out of this country and leave us alone. Now you want to use these people as hostage. Let me tell you that. They are using them as hostage. That means the people who are coming, the international community, ECOWAS, or the economy who are coming here would not bomb us. They will not fire. They will not shoot at us because the civilians are here. You have children, women are around us. They will not hit us. But what do you think would happen after 1 week, 2 weeks, when Niger is surrounded by military? Even whereas they didn't hit them, this civilian would look for a way to escape and go out and look for food and shelter. Then you will see the military also, you will see people deserting. You see what happened in Iraq during the war, Saddam Hussein war. You see military men deserting, running away. You see intelligence officers running away, going and giving information. I'll just give you, just briefly, I'll give you an information what happened in the Gambia here. It's an example. When the ECOWAS threatening that they are coming. After when former President Jammeh said, withdrew, I mean, U-turned his statement that he has accepted the election. He said now he's not going. When they gave their statement, you see what happened. Didn't Gambians go out of this country, civilians, who were supposed to stay? Do you think if these Gambians were staying around Jammeh, it would be easy to get him out?
Well, no, quite.
If they were around everywhere, staying around him, do you think the international community is crazy enough to come and suit Gambia?
No, quite, sure.
But everybody looked for civilians, moved out, almost. Jammeh realized that he is alone. Even his ministers are running away.
Sure.
He has to go. Sure. That is what is going to happen. The Ecowas is not going to use force immediately. I am telling you, it's not within these 2 weeks, 3 weeks. But the statement is there. It's an option. Now it's left there, giving the military, Mohammed, sorry, I said Tijan, Mohammed Tijan, they're giving him the opportunity now to think twice. Restore Bazoum and let's negotiate, because for them also, let me tell you, they know that they have committed a crime. Also, it would not be fair now for them just to give up like that and hand over them themselves.
Sure, sure.
They need assurance. Negotiation, if the negotiations start now, I'm telling you, Ade,
sure.
They will say now, what if we restore him now? What is going to happen to us?
Well,
what do we have?
You've actually hit the nail on the head in something that I was actually going to throw to Mr. Chongan, and that is that has this ultimatum put them in a situation where they can't save face? If they give in, there's embarrassment, and people have their pride, even if they are coupists. They have their pride, and you know, if you heard the statement that most of us here, we understand French. You saw him when he went on TV, and even in the press release that put out, even his press release said he spoke with anger. He didn't even, you know, sugarcoat it. And he called on the people to defend the territorial integrity of their country if they were attacked from abroad. Have we not given him an out or any way to save face by making this sort of ultimatum? Mr. Chongan, if I could come to you.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, there's always going to be some brickmanship with the coup protests. I mean, and obviously, they will try to garner support, etc. But if the sanctions bite,
Mr. Chongan, you had moved again. Can you re-center yourself a bit? Aha, excellent. Yes, okay. A bit more.
But obviously, if the sanctions bite, people will start to turn against them.
Yeah, we're still missing.
I'm quite sure.
Sorry, we're still missing part of you. If you could move to your left, please, to your left. Yeah.
See me?
Your left. Not on the screen, but your left.
Here?
Yeah, I'm told it's perfect now. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
So sorry for that. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, as I said there will be brickmanship.
Sure.
But I mean, they were going to negotiate with Ecowas, and probably, you know, you remember there was a coup in South Tom and Principe.
Yes.
When the leader came to see Obasanjo.
Yes. That's right.
And there was a negotiation.
Yes.
And then the guy was restored. And there was safe place. And also, we don't know whether the army in Niger is united. Because at the beginning, the chief of defense staff was not supportive of the thing.
Well, that's right.
So, you see, these diplomatic and economic sanctions, these are very severe. If you don't have banking,
yeah, quite.
You don't have goods coming through the ports, things will quickly turn very bad.
Well, as we've heard, the crowd can quickly turn. The crowd can quickly turn
not
against
only
you.
the crowd can turn, but these coupists will probably try to negotiate a way out.
No, sure.
And maybe they can give them exile somewhere or etc. So these are all options, but that's for ECOWAS.
Okay, cool.
But one thing that is important, you see, everybody says there's a coup, we should not attack, we should not do this. I'm not advocating for war immediately. But we cannot also allow impunity to continue. That soldiers can always wake up and overthrow a government with no excuse.
Sure, sure.
So these are the things that need to be addressed. And coming back on the issue of the credibility of ECOWAS.
Yes.
I think ECOWAS need to empower the commission, whatever
Exactly.
Dr. Ture is.
Exactly.
Yes.
Those institutions need to be empowered.
Exactly.
And also the court decision need to be executed. You can only have that if you have a commission that is very powerful. Obviously, some of the states will have to surrender a bit of their sovereignty.
Sure, sure.
And that's the only way ECOWAS can go. Because if we have a strong ECOWAS, we are united, but it has to be through standards.
Sure.
You cannot have one civilian, semi-authoritarian, one fully democrat, one quarter democrat. No, it has to be a uniform thing.
Sure. Thank you for that. If I could come to you, Essa, and then I will take all of you in this particular thing, because Mr. Chonga has just mentioned something. And sometimes it seems an attractive thing, you know, or if ECOWAS can come together on this and that. What became the European Union started as the European Economic Community, EEC. It was around an economy. And then they started talking about a single currency, a single army, and suddenly they started rebelling. People wanted autonomy. In ECOWAS, we talked about respecting term limits. If we say ECOWAS is going to insist that every country has term limits, just today, although it was a flawed referendum, Central African Republic, the majority came down in favor of removing term limits. Had they been an ECOWAS country, they would have been frowned upon. But that was their choice. Are we taking away sovereignty from countries if we insist that every country must have term limits? If I could start with you.
Yes, you know, when we talk about sovereignty, and there is a battle between bilateral and multilateral, then we have to stand up and understand what we are doing.
Sure.
Because you say economic community of West African states.
Yeah, quite.
If we are a community linked together economically, politically, we all agree as gentlemen and gentle ladies, if I can say that, because if not, I don't want to be taken to this gender parity court. You know, so that in itself, I don't see any reason why any country would say your sovereignty has been touched, because it will be an equal footing. You know, you know what I mean. We have those very people who go there and give lengthy speeches of Pan-Africanism, African integration. You know, if you believe in the soul and spirit of Pan-Africanism, I don't know why you would think that if all of you come together and then be together economically. Because like you mentioned, Europe, there was this ACP, as you said. In fact, even the UN, did they start as the League of Nations?
League of Nations.
Exactly.
Of course, yes.
So force is in unity, but sincere unity. We have to respect what binds us. Like my brother said, we need to empower that commission where Dr. Ture is. Because where now you see the essence of his team. Going gets tough. It's our brother who is speaking to the world. He's the one speaking to the coupists. So if a person has that voice and that position, you should empower him. Okay, I will go back to this deficiency of credibility. I think deficiency of credibility happens if member states undermine the commission. Because the commission wants to succeed. We don't have any better bloc right now in West Africa than ECOWAS. Where is it? I don't know. It's the only best option. It depends on how we empower it. Because without unity, we are nowhere. And like one person says, he said, if you want to unite two societies or two countries, let there be trade links and economic links. Say who you know about NAFTA, Canada and all this. You hear differences here, but you will never hear war. Because if I own a business in Sierra Leone, I would never want to hear war in Sierra Leone.
No, go on.
And I'll bring a scenario of a sphere of activities that you know more than I do. When we talk about what Cornell was saying, economic sanctions will make the crowd turn against, like I just said earlier. Because right now, it's the crowd that is protecting the coupists. In fact, within the nucleus of the coupists, they may not even find their way through. I will now link it to Sierra Leone. The current president, Brigadier Madabiyo, what happened when Julius, what happened to Valentine?
Strasser.
This situation is always similar to what was in Sierra Leone.
Indeed,
a palace coup organized, put him in a helicopter, go, Julius will say, okay, you know, guys, that can also happen in Niger. Because if they see that the sanctions are coming, these people mean business, and prices are skyrocketing. And the danger here is what I am afraid of. Like I will keep saying, military option, you cannot rule it out. Because all what they have on the list, you can't say it cannot happen. If they don't listen to diplomacy, well, what comes is force. But now let it be fast. Because you know why I'm afraid of the long term? The Salafists are there. ISIS is there. ACME is there. The gang leaders in Libya, some of them are Malians and Nigerians. We don't want those people now to be a marriage of convenience with a frustrated suicidal coupist.
Sure. Okay. Thank you for that. Now, if I could come to you, Mr. Mbalo. Esa touched on something there. We talked about this EU and the Ecowas community of, and you mentioned League of Nations and the United Nations. But let's be frank. In an Ecowas, can little Gambia have the same clout as big Nigeria? The reason I say this, for all the fact that League of Nations became the United Nations, you still have the so-called big powers with the veto.
Veto power. They have the veto power.
And so it makes it an unequal, and yet we talk about the United Nations as if it's this thing that we should all aspire to, and yet you have that veto power in it. Could something like that not happen in an ECOWAS where you have Nigeria and you have little Gambia?
Well, I mean, Ade, I think looking at even, I mean, how the chairmanship is rotating, that would tell you that it's happening.
Sure.
Because who was the chairperson? Who was the chairperson of ECOWAS? Is it not just about 2 years ago? Was it not Buhari?
Buhari.
After he came, Mbalo. I think Mbalo took it over. Didn't it go back? There are other countries. Gambia is here. We are Democrat.
Sure.
But I mean, we put into consideration the powers that Nigeria has.
Sure.
Today, hadn't been this chairmanship, it's not with Nigeria, with Nigeria, with Gambia. It would be very difficult for us to take to lead the people, tell them that let's do this.
Yeah, sure.
Because number one, economically, Nigeria is bigger than us.
Of course.
Ghana is bigger than us. That's the fact. Number two, militarily, they are more powerful.
Sure.
So if we were leading, it would be very difficult for us to tell them that commit this, commit your shoulders, do this.
Sure.
But you see, it is easy for Nigeria, for them to come, just like what is happening with the superpowers, with America. I remember what George Bush told the United Nations. When he was going to Iraq, when he was going to attack Iraq, he told them at the United Nations, "You either be with us or you are against us. We are going anyway." That's what he told them, because they know that United States has the power.
Leave my friend alone.
He said he has the power. He is going to Iraq, so you join us, or you are against us. So that is already there. What you are saying with this thing, with the superpower thing, within Nigeria, is there. Let me come back also. You started talking about this, the council, and also this term limit thing that should be instituted. We all agree that countries should have this type of thing, like term limiting. But let me tell you, you cannot use the same yardstick. There are countries that have been here for a long time. They are enjoying democracy. Those are the countries that we should make sure that they show a better example.
Sure.
But not countries that are coming from a dictatorship, that people are trying to adjust, people are trying to reform their policies and constitutions and other things. I will give you an example. I mean, I'll go directly to the point. Gambia. We know we know where we came from. Recently, Gambia was under a militocracy. That's the fact. I'm sorry to say, we are here to our government is here to reconcile the Gambians. We are here to unite the Gambians. We don't want to talk about the past, but in certain discussion we have to mention about what happened in the past. So you cannot punish Gambia. You cannot label Gambia as just because of, I mean, we have to come straight away and come and have a term limit immediately like other countries like Senegal, where they have enjoyed democracy for so many years. You see what happened to Abdoulaye Wade.
Yeah, sure.
We see what happened to Abdoulaye Wade because Senegalese have been enjoying democracy for quite a long time. They are used to it and they are enjoying it. They don't want to lose it. That's why when Abdoulaye Wade wanted to interfere in the second term thing, what happened to him?
Yeah, they dealt with him.
He was ejected.
Yeah.
Abdoulaye Wade, I mean Macky Sall, also a good brother to Gambia, a good brother to His Excellency, who loves Gambia very well. We have seen he didn't. People thought he didn't announce it that he was going to go in for a third time, but when people started speculating, rumors were going around that he wants to go for a third time. You see what happened in Senegal.
Sure. It's okay.
That cannot be compared to certain countries. People must be honest and very fair to state the situations are very different. The circumstances are very different.
Sure. And if I could come to you on the same topic.
I'd like to speak to this issue of Ecowas. We all agree, because I have had the privilege of working with Dr. Toure. I know him very well. I know his capacity. I know a good number of his cabinet. I know Dr. Fatau. These are competent, excellent negotiators and diplomats and respected personalities in our sub-region. My unease is, would heads of state cede that kind of authority to them? Some of them would just look at them as secretaries. And this is the misconception that is taking us back, making us go backwards. But I am sure if they were to realistically take advantage of what is offered, ECOWAS, whatever its shortcomings, is still the best regional bloc in the continent. We all know that. But unfortunately, the empowerment of the staff is what is lacking. And of course, respect for our rules and regulations amongst us. Now, I want to differ with my brother on the question of chairmanship. The Gambia has been a founding member of ECOWAS. And actually, it built the foundation stone. And I don't, size or no size, because it's, when you go there as chairman, you just coordinate.
Of course, sure.
And quite frankly, I am not happy that our head of state was not given the opportunity to assume that office. When was the last time we had a chairman of the Authority of Heads of State? Ghana. From Ghana, it went to Buhari.
He went Buhari, and then he went to
President
Imbalo in
now back in, yes, Nigeria is our big brother. There is no denying it. I was privileged to start my diplomatic career in Nigeria. And one of the things I proposed and I fought for was we used Nigeria to help us lift ourselves up. It has every capacity, despite its challenges. There is no country that can challenge Nigeria, not just in sub-region, but in Africa. But we also have to be given a chance to grow. President Barrow has to be given the opportunity to expose himself and show people what he's capable of. He has the staff. Here he is. He has people around him. We should not sell ourselves cheap.
Sure.
That's a position I really want to be
Thank
strong
you for
on.
that. Mr. Chonga, and if I could come to you, and I know we've been away from you for a while now, but just to kind of slightly change the angle, we've talked about the fact that, you know, ECOWAS has taken what is being seen as an unprecedented step in this action that is being proposed, and the sanctions that have gone beyond the usual sanctions, if we can call them that, and the possible threat of force and possibly the use of force. But it's interesting that when this debate came up in the office, and we asked colleagues, several of whom said they were in support of the possible use of force, I then asked them the simple next question: what if your brother was in the Gambian armed forces, your sister, and he or she was sent and they were put in harm's way, and all of a sudden their mood changed? Might that be what this might come against if it comes to the fact that force has to be used? Is that the reality that we might have to face?
So if I understand your question very well, it's about whether independent force, whether Gambia should contribute troops or
not just Gambia, just any country. How would the people? Because the debate that one is seeing online is that people seem split between using force because they have to set an example, and not using force because, you know, people might get killed fighting in what they're calling somebody else's war, and they're also saying civilians might be in harm's way, and that is there's a reluctance there that might make it unpopular, because as one person said, if Nigeria went in today and they killed 1 military person and 100 civilians, what do you think people will think of Nigeria? So, you know, is that the sort of thing that might hold back ECOWAS from taking this step that we think they might be about to take?
Okay, there are two issues. Winston Churchill once said that if you continue to feed a crocodile, after the crocodile will come for you and eat you.
Yes, quite.
Are we going to allow illegality just to continue? I don't support like we gung ho, we go for military intervention.
Sure.
But if we arrive to that stage, you know, we have to be honest with you. You join the military to execute the orders of your commander-in-chief. War is not right. There will be some casualties.
Of course.
But you cannot be a soldier and you say you don't want to go to war. Then why are you in the army?
No, I think the soldiers will be up for it. I think it's the public I'm talking about. I think the soldiers.
Okay,
yeah.
But I'm explaining to the public.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
if you choose to be a military guy, you have to execute legal orders. I emphasize legal orders.
Of course.
So these things, we need to have a conversation on it. I mean, everywhere there will be people who are worried, just natural and normal.
Sure.
Even in the UK and in America, some of the families where the kids died in Afghanistan, some of the families are angry. But that's the reality of war.
Yeah, I mean, Carry on.
But
sorry.
I want to just say two things about the discussion we had prior. I think empowering the institution of the commission, I don't know what they call it in the policy. They call it the commission.
It's the commission.
Yeah.
It's the commission. Yes.
Yeah, commission. Empowering the commission, I think it's not about personality. It's about empowering the institution.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if the institution is powered with proper laws and powers that are clear, they could do a fantastic job.
Sure.
And also about Gambia. You know, we have to, as a small state, it's a very advantageous in an international setup. If you look at the European Union, Luxembourg is very powerful because in every big bloc, like in Ecowas, for example, Nigeria is powerful, Ghana is powerful, Senegal is powerful. So Gambia, we can use, if we have a good diplomatic service, because nobody will be against us. So if we try to occupy a lot of the strategic positions within ECOWAS, we'll have a lot of influence by default.
Sure.
Because Luxembourg has a lot of influence in the European Union. Because if a German wants to do something, the French will be suspicious. The Oracle will be suspicious. But in Luxembourg, they tend to have the compromise. So I don't think size, a small state is not a disadvantage. What is important, we have to be honest with each other. We need to have good civil servants and good diplomats that will deliver
Exactly.
that thing.
Sure. Thank you for that. Now, if I could come back, one of the reasons why we're having this conversation at all is because, as I keep using the phrase, it wasn't just the usual sanctions. And I think what I can't get away from is that ever since the phrase was used, it may include the use of force. One of the things that people have argued is that they've got no problems with a military that is defending the territorial integrity of its own country. Gambia, soldiers defending the Gambia. But what they don't see, and this is where the conversation started to change and people started to waver, is that they did not see how fighting in Niger equated to defending the territorial integrity of the Gambia, which is what you are former military men. You know, how do you square that, where it seems as if ECOWAS wants to set an example and military force might be, and I have to say, one of us in the, in the office said, we're not America. We're not going to go all the way to Vietnam, fight an unpopular war and lose hundreds of thousands of people in the interest of putting down communism. You know, what is it, and how do you sell that idea to people that somehow being in the military here in the Gambia and being sent to fight a war, not to peacekeep, which our soldiers have been doing quite a lot of, but to fight a war, how do you sell that to the public?
Okay.
If I could start with you.
Yes, Ade, thank you. But I think I just begin with where you just ended. The comparison of America in Vietnam and Gambia in Niger is just like you're trying to tell me that you are comparing the sun with a torchlight. You know, they are both light, but you can't do that. I mean, that's not a good comparison at all, because the causes and the effects are completely different.
I get.
So I think that would not be a premise I will take to justify the decision. Like I said earlier, one of the, I can immerse myself right now in the mindset of the President of the Republic of the Gambia. One of the most difficult things that is facing him today, facing all of us, because it's like the decide. No president in this world will say two things. May I fail, or may I open the gate for my people to go somewhere and die. The president, this is not an easy decision. That's why I feel it for our nation, for us to discuss it. So before I go further also, going back to the chairmanship, I will just add to what my brother was saying. I think I agree with Ambassador Juf. You see, Nigeria is a big brother, fine. But you see, in the literature of democracy, I think we should do away with this power-centered leadership. We should go on principle-centered leadership. If they respect the principle of ECOWAS, That is where I like what you said earlier, deficiency of credibility. Who is seeding the seed of deficiency? Because if we go by from Buhari to Mbalo, directly back, simply because you have an army. No, it should be principle-centered. For me, that is it. I mean, because if we are crying here, what do we cry about, Africans, from Nkrumah to now? We are saying that we don't have a permanent seat on the U.S. Security Council, and we are an entire continent. We don't have the position we deserve on the WTO. So I think what they should do is, President Adama Barrow, if they give him the chairmanship, President Adama Barrow alone is not going to be there.
No, quite.
Like Colonel said, like Ambassador Yu said, like the advisor said, you have to have a vibrant, aggressive diplomacy around him. Number one qualifier is Dr. Toure himself.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Who is a Gambian. Yeah. We had Kofi Annan at the United Nations. He's a Ghanaian. Yeah. But when his term ended, where did he go back to? He went back to this place, to Ghana, and then was doing things. So for me, like I said, it is more about soft force. We have the people here. Look, Gambia has a case to sell. I will always be a salesperson of my country in this case, because Gambia has gone through. Sir Dawda created ECOMO. Okay, we have to give credit where it is due. The politicians we have here, beginning with the president himself, we are saying that Gambians ran out of the country. My brother is right. Had those Gambians stayed, had they had, like the president today, had he been some kind of fiery, vibrant speaker and tell, okay, go and take up arms, do you think what would have happened? We have to give him credit for that. We have to give credit to the people who were during the impasse. We had Halifa Babakar Sallah. We had Sidi Ajatas. We have Usainu Numukunda Dabos and all this here inside. The NPP and all these people, when you know, now if it is about another country, we are all going to be Gambians.
Yeah, sure.
Absolutely. People like him. We never advocated for war, because Gambians don't like that. I'll divulge a secret about him here. Maybe he doesn't want me to say it. Him and I, we went somewhere in New York, and we had the opportunity in 2006. He knows what I'm talking about.
Right.
We would have been the first 2013, but he himself cornered me and said, Ezra, you know, I know we want to change. I know you have the opportunity, but let's just continue our campaign on the internet.
Sure.
Because, you know, sitting down and seeing our people be refugees. Nobody is a warmonger here. But when it comes to this ECOWAS thing, definitely this deficiency you are talking about is caused by what he just said. I know I understand where he's coming from about Nigeria, but Nigeria themselves should also avoid that.
Sure.
They should stop that big brother flexing muscle that because we are the ones who have the European Union doesn't work like that. You know, some countries are very powerful. Germany is very powerful. Yeah. Like he said, Luxembourg decides. Finland is, I don't know. Other countries that are within the bloc there, NATO is there. You don't go by, I am the big man, then I am the one who will. Does that exist at the United Nations? I think United States might have their way out in doing things. But I've never heard, I served at the UN Security Council myself. This is not, I heard, I did. We have a diplomat here who resolved the Eritrea-Ethiopia Babakar Blaise Diagne. He was our permanent secretary at that time. Babakar Blaise Diagne was the president of UN Security. He is a very good friend of Lavrov. We have those Gambians here. Sergei Lavrov. So what Colonel just said, I just wanted to touch on that, about the Wagner issue. These are the concerns I have.
Sure.
Because, you see, when you look at the geopolitical arena, some people are saying, oh, America has a base there. America's base in Niger is not for this war. France is based there, maybe, but you will see they will be careful. And here I will advise the Western powers also. Always you see on their televisions, they will bring people and call them expert of West Africa, when Sekou Mbalo is the one who will meet them at the restaurant in Bronx, tell them West Africa, they go on CNN and call themselves expert. They also have to come down and understand that the local expertise, even if you study West Africa and 50 PhDs, I sleep at Kuntaya village. So with all your 50 PhDs, I know Gambia more than you do. They need to respect our expertise also to help them to know how to, even if they are supporting us, let them not support us former colonial power. And that's where France need to go and revisit their books. If they don't do, they are going to face a problem with even the civilian government. Now they think they are facing a problem with the military, but if the civilian government see that some of the military are not happy with France, what do you expect the civilian government to do? They will tell them the truth.
They will review
I think if I may,
yes, you may.
Just an afterthought about our challenges to integration. We have been struggling to get a unified currency.
Yeah, the ECO.
ECO.
Yeah.
But we all know that as long as France has this stronghold over the economy of
its
CFA countries,
the safer countries, sure.
It's going to be I'm not saying it won't happen.
Yeah.
It's going to be a very, very protracted battle for us.
Sure, for sure.
Because all these countries signed an agreement with France. Everything, your resources bring you, you deposit in the French treasury.
Yes, right. That's right.
Then if you want a loan, I give it to you and tell you how much I can give you. As long as that is there, we Anglophone part of ECOWAS will find it very difficult. Of course, this is where Nigeria can now flex its muscle. Because it is in the interest of the bloc.
If I can just go back to Niger.
Yes.
When the matter came up about the possible use of force,
yes.
We heard what Mali and Burkina Faso said. And in fact, they sent envoys they sent envoys to actually go there. And Mr. Chongan, what they actually said was that if force is used, we would see it as a declaration of war against us as well. Was that an empty threat by them, or is it something that we need to consider? And if you could reposition yourself again, I don't know whether you're getting tired and
yes,
it's getting late for him.
You're slightly going off. That's better. Thank you. And so yes, I mean they sent a joint declaration, both Mali and Burkina Faso, saying that I saw it, and in fact I wish I had it up on screen, saying that we would consider this a declaration of war against us as well if force is used against Niger. Was that an empty or an idle threat by them, do you think?
It's about brickmanship. You can never it. But I give them both Mali and Burkina Faso. They are not controlling their territory.
Yeah, quite.
They can hardly get out of their capital.
This is true.
And they are border with Niger.
Yep.
Most of it is controlled by the jihadis.
Yep. Yep.
You see, some of the young officers, they come up with statements. Cannot assert the territorial integrity.
Yeah, quite.
How can you go for another fight? Obviously, I wouldn't dismiss the threat. But I'm just pointing out some of the challenges they already have.
Yes, it's reality. Yeah, sure. I mean, in Mali, they said, carry on.
This is as Ambassador said, this is a geopolitical problem that's happening. There are other external factors. There's the Western wall, and there is this Russian mercenaries who are composed of former prisoners and convicts.
Yes.
And you see what they're doing in Central Africa.
Well, that's right.
So you think that the other states will just sit down and watch? Yeah.
That's right.
I'll give way to others. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think their declaration is just another form of telling the people that, listen, you are going to start a regional war so that people will be intimidated. They want to intimidate the people. That's all.
Yeah, sure.
That's all. They cannot do anything.
As they said, brinkmanship.
But saying that, that means the Ecowas community would think twice. They would say, you know what, let us not start a regional problem, a war.
Yes.
That's why they came up with that statement.
Yeah.
Not only that, let me tell you, there is an other hidden issue that many people are thinking about with the Wagner thing.
Okay, this whole Wagner thing, yes. Yes. I was astonished when I read I think in TASS, the Russian, where they were kind of having a problem with Wagner because of their sort of mutiny. And they said that Wagner expect to make about 100 million in Africa in the next 3 years because African governments would pay them that much. And I thought African governments would rather spend 100 million providing services for their own people, but they're going to pay a foreign private army who haven't been very successful in turning back the jihadists anyway.
Exactly. So this is what they are using now. They know that a lot of people are paying attention to what is happening in Mali and Burkina Faso. Because now Russia has established that relationship.
That's right, yeah.
And we all know the problems of Ukraine.
Yeah, of course.
We know what Russia is facing with the international community.
Sure.
So starting another issue in the region, in the Sahelian region, with Russia, that means people will think about, you know what, they are going to bring an order war here. The Ukrainian war is coming here. Because when we hit these people and they are united, Russia is going to support them, then there is a bigger war. This is it's a psychological thing that they are playing in the minds of the people. I don't know whether people understand it.
I think some people do.
In fact, they came to the TV showing that Russia has donated 4 helicopters. I think, did you see that?
That's right. Yes.
So these are all psychology. The military, they have the, I'm sorry, I'm not a military man. My brother is a military man, but they know how to play with the minds of the people, especially civilians. That's all.
Thank you for that. Now, I know time is kind of catching up on us and we're really enjoying the conversation. But if I could go to Mr. Chongan first to kind of wrap up, really, what does this mean for ECOWAS going forward? Yes, with Niger, but in the wider context about what ECOWAS is all about. What is Niger showing us? And what are the lessons that we can learn from what has happened in Niger? Mr. Chongan, if I could start with you, and then I'll come to the other panelists in turn. But if I can start with you, please.
Thank you very much, Ade, and thanks to and my fellow panelists. Well, I think we discussed before. We need a strong ECOWAS. But the only thing to get a strong ECOWAS is to have a strong institution between, like the Commission and the court and its respect. And then also we need to have good governance in the civilian countries. There are some that are very well, but some of the actions of some of the civilian heads of state, it's a problem. And they should not give coups or anything. But coups are never must always be condemned. And the only way ECOWAS can act is having standards. Developing our democracies. And also to explain to people. Because sometimes I cry when I and I see the civilians dancing, they are dancing to escape.
No, no.
We have seen our example in the Gambia.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So, I mean, Yaya Jammeh built a stadium.
Yeah, yeah.
When the coup was happening. So nobody talks about the silent majority.
Yeah, quite.
So right now, ECOWAS is at a very critical juncture where they need to show leadership.
Sure.
But in order to show leadership, you must put your house in order.
Exactly.
So we have to be honest with that. And they need to up their game in terms of propaganda. Because
not sure what's happened there, but I hope you can still hear us. But he mentioned about propaganda. And
yeah, I said the propaganda of these young military leaders give a utopia that doesn't exist.
Well, yeah, sure.
That needs to be countered.
Sure.
Yeah, so thank you very much.
Well, thank you for that. Now, Ambassador Diouf, if I could come to you.
I'll just follow on.
Yes, please.
Exactly what he said. The first step is for our own governments to respect the rule of law,
Sure.
fundamental human rights, and good governance. Sure. If we cannot be faulted there, then we have a good basis. The second step would be empower the institution of the commission.
Sure.
Niger is a rude awakening, if I may say so.
Sure.
And I think all heads of state must be worried seeing this trend.
Sure.
So it's up to them now to get their act together and make sure that the reasons why they were voted in the office, the ordinary man sees him or herself there.
If I stop you because time is running, I can give you 2 minutes each.
No problem.
If I could come to you first, Esa.
Yeah, I mean, I will just wrap up by stemming from diplomacy again, because definitely we saw it happen in the Gambia. Johnson Sirleaf came, Buhari came, others came. When diplomacy failed, something else came. It's the same situation. Like Winston Churchill said, I'll quote what Connell said. He said, when you are traversing hell, you don't stop. If you choose military option, just make sure that you really mean military option. You can't have chars de combats and armored cars moving, and then you are being the story of the lieutenant in the United States. They are trying to capture the bridge, and the lieutenant will have the book and said, okay, boys, the sergeant told him, wait, lieutenant. They fired and then captured the bridge and said, you can continue reading your book. You see, because when you start military, that's military. I mean, the option cannot be off the table, though, because I will not support that. So I think my advice here is any of the 15 member states, be they on the media, conferences and everybody, heads of states are worried, but the civilians should also be equally worried. The option of overthrowing governments or jihadi spreading in West Africa is not the best option. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And final word to you, Mr.
Ade, thank you very much. And I thank my fellow panelists, Ambassador Diouf, and my brother, Ambassador C, and also Colonel Chongan. Really, I appreciate this discussion that we are having here. I mean, my last word is the Gambians should make sure that they support the ECOWAS. I'm appealing to them to support the ECOWAS by putting this option of the use of force. May the use of force come, they should support that option. That does not mean that when Gambians goes there, they are going to be killed. We are going to protect we want to protect our democracy. We want to be seen as Gambia is protecting our democracy and the fundamental rights of the continent democracy. And also the human right of everybody. This is what we are doing here. That's what President Adama Barrow and also his fellow presidents of ECOWAS are doing. They want to make sure that we build a foundation, put to an end to these coup d'etats. Gambians, Africans have suffered. The Sahel region has suffered a lot, enough, with these endless coup d'etats, meaningless coup d'etats. Somebody will just jump there because you have the opportunity of having an AK-47. You go and overthrow a democratically elected government. We are not saying this because we hate the military. No, we love them. They are our brothers, sisters. They are also entitled, when they retire, to become president. Look at Julius Maada. When he overthrew Trasa, he handed over power. Sure. He became a civilian. The people of Sierra Leone, they elected him. He became the president. So we are not saying this because we don't want military men. Let that be very clear.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for that. And I have to say thank you to our viewers and, of course, to the panelists who you've all heard. And, of course, we'll probably be having another program where we just look at why do we have coup d'etats at all. We haven't really dealt with that today, but thank you for watching. And so on my immediate right, Ambassador Juf, Mr. Mbalo, and Mr. Ambassador C. And online we had Ambassador Chongan, who also joined us. And once again, thank you for staying with us all the way. And we hope you've enjoyed the conversation, and we hope you found it to be rewarding and enlightening. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.